All right, everybody, 10 Tampa Bay Chief Meteorologist Bobby Deskins here. You are looking at an incredible picture that was taken on the 28th of September. And this is the eye of Hurricane Ian with about 155 mile per hour winds at the time. And you can see it right off the coast of Sanibel. They kind of drew that in there. You can also clearly see, look at the blue, crystal blue waters down there looking down. I mean, just an incredible shot. Also, look at this. You see these thunderheads here. A ton of lightning in the eye wall leading up to landfall, especially in this area here and then on the back side over here, which is tough to see now. You can almost make out the stadium effect of that area right in there. Just amazing picture. So what I wanted to do today was to kind of go over a little bit of a recap of what the storm did. Hi, everybody. I'm 10 Tampa Bay Chief Meteorologist Bobby Deskins. I hope you are out there doing well. I know a lot of us, especially in Southwest Florida, are not. I hope that you are finding the help that you need and that things will get better sooner than later and quickly. So let's go over. First, I want to let you know I'm posting this on my YouTube page as well, too. So go ahead and search for Bobby Deskins Weather and like and subscribe to that because I post a lot of stuff over there. All right, now let's talk about first the track. I want to start and kind of go where we are for the season. All right, we'll go through the track. We'll go through the similarities and things that are different than Charley. It's amazing. It's happening with Charley. And we'll talk about some wind gusts, and rainfall. We'll even talk about what's going on in the tropics right now. We're going to talk about something called rain shedding, which is basically runoff. All right, so let's get started with that. There we go with the tracks that you can see there. Basically, look where Ian is here. All right. See Ian down here at the bottom. Bonnie, actually very similar track. Ian actually started over in here. And in fact, tropical depression 13, potential tropical cyclone 13 is down here right now. It's a very similar track to Bonnie. Goes into Central America by this weekend. I'll get you updated on that. But officially this is where Ian started. You see it made the curve, came up across Cuba, into Florida, off Florida, and up across Myrtle Beach, and up into parts of Carolinas. All right, so this is just this year alone, right? You can see the tracks for the 2022 hurricane season. All right, let's talk Hurricane Ian. So there's that track. I want to show you this spot right down in here. That is where it really started to intensify. So here we go. Let me hold on here for a second to make sure. Big echo. All right, hold on, guys. Sorry, if I can fix this. Try this. I know what to do. I know what to do. Fix it. Let's try this. All right, how we sounding now? Sorry, guys, got a big echo out there. How we sounding? Okay, guys. Let's we'll just start from the top here. Let me come back up here. Andrew's on me. Yes. Okay. Thanks, dude. Appreciate it. Okay. All right. 10 Tampa Bay Chief Meteorologist Bobby Deskins here. I want to recap what happened with Hurricane Ian. This is more of a meteorological recap than anything else. And then we'll talk briefly about the tropics that we're out there right now. Here we go. There's the track, all the tracks for the season. And you can see where Ian was down here in the bottom. It curved up, went across Cuba. Ironically, I didn't even realize how close. This haven't had time to think about it, but Alex, our first storm, went across South Florida, not very far. It was more towards Marco versus Ian went in towards Fort Myers. Bonnie is about where Bonnie formed is about where Ian started to form. You can see the official track was there. Potential tropical cyclone 3 is actually now coming across, very similar to what Bonnie will do. I think it comes in a little bit further to the north, but it goes into Central America. So good news as far as that's concerned. Let's take a look at just the track of Hurricane Ian, okay? So you can see, again, north of Carousel is where it started. But, again, we were tracking it down here. And it wasn't very organized. But then once it got towards Carousel, well, east of there, Trinidad, it started really to move to the north and the west. That's when it started to organize. Now, it really started to strengthen right in here. There's Grand Cayman. And it went from basically a tropical storm to a hurricane to a Cat 3 hurricane right in there. There's that landfall over in Cuba. Then it comes off of Cuba, and this is key, guys. it takes this right-hand turn here. It's a little bit of friction when it hits land because it's spinning this way, and this side of the storm gets slowed down because it's hitting land. This side speeds up a little bit, so a lot of times you see it wobble to the right when it hits land. And you can see that that really took it off to the north and the east, and then it looks like it basically did it again as it was approaching land here. A little bit of friction out here. There was a subtropical jet coming in from the west. There was a trough up to the north pulling on it. There's a lot going on, and there's going to be, I think, incredible dissertations, coming out of this. We love paperwork that people in colleges and doctor theses are going to be writing on it because it's just an amazing storm. There's a close-up of the landfall, and you can see, I'm going to zoom right down in here, where it went across Pine Island, essentially. Cayo Costa is that outer line, that outer island, I should say, right there. So I'll zoom in just a little bit, and you can see where it went. Basically, Pirate Harbor is right in here. Cayo Costa is out here. That's Captiva. Or, excuse me, Captiva is down here. And you've got Boca Grande to the north. That's Pine Island right there. And then you can see Fort Myers. And, of course, Sanibel and Fort Myers Beach, which is right in here, just got nailed. And they were on the side where the storm was just blowing almost perpendicular to them. So the storm surge was incredible. All right, let's talk about the comparisons between Charley and Ian. Now, what you see there is Ian's track, right? Look at the track from Charley from 2004. Look how similar they were, especially when it gets up here. I mean, landfall was essentially in the same spot as it was for Hurricane Ian, 2022 versus 2004. And now Charley it was traveling faster, and it did go more northeast versus east-northeast, and it went in near Myrtle Beach as well. I mean, look at that. I mean, close to Myrtle Beach, although it was trucking to the northeast, and it went across the Eastern Carolinas at that time. I was actually working in the Eastern Carolinas and tracking the storm as it went over top of us. You can see where it went into Myrtle Beach there. It just became a remnant low, and look, it just is falling apart over here. It's a non-tropical low, but a couple things got together, and it was sitting here spinning for a while, throwing some moisture out. So just crazy how it was so similar to that. Take a look at the landfall. So technically it made 4 landfalls. The first was in Cuba, all right, Pinar del Rio. All right, that was Tuesday, early Tuesday morning. Wednesday in Southwest Florida was the first landfall, but that was out on Cayo Costa, okay? That's that little island just offshore, little barrier island. That was at 3:05. I've seen people say 3:10, but 3:10 was the time that the Hurricane Center sent out the bulletin saying it had made landfall. If you read in that bulletin, it said landfall was at 3:05 p.m. with 150-mile-per-hour winds. It was just prior to that, it was 155-mile-per-hour winds just offshore. The second landfall came about an hour and a half later as the technical center, not the eye wall, but the technical center of the storm went over Punta Gorda. By that time, it had decreased a little bit, not much, 145-mile-per-hour winds. It crossed Florida, went off of Florida near the Cape Canaveral, Daytona Beach area, then went back in Georgetown, South Carolina, Friday afternoon with 85-mile-per-hour winds. Now, let's go over here. Now, take a look at the ranking for this storm. It is tied for 4th for the strongest landfalling hurricanes in Florida. Now, the Labor Day 1935 storm went right up through the Keys. Nobody saw it coming. I think it was at least over 700 people were killed in the Keys alone because they were building the railroad going down there. That was in 1935. But look, Charley and Ian tied for 4th place. Only Michael, which went in the Panhandle, and of course everybody knows Andrew, back in 1992 had higher winds, stronger winds, other than the Labor Day storm one. So this is a powerful storm. Wind gusts. Now, this is something that we made after it went through, and just a couple of hours ago, and I put this on my Facebook page, Bobby Deskins Weather, the local National Weather Service here in Tampa out of Ruskin, they do a fantastic job. They just went and put out a preliminary report with pressures and gusts and rainfall. I put that on my Facebook page, so you can see a link to that. But most of these numbers that you see here are still standing. So Ruskin had an 85-mile-per-hour wind gust, 75 in Tampa. Remember, anything 74 and above is hurricane strength. only tropical storm force wind gusts in Land O'Lakes and Brooksville, hurricane force in St. Pete. Wauchula, which was very close to the eye, only had 70. Arcadia was a little less than that, but Sebring, you can see, had 78. Remember, it weakens as it moves on shore, so even though they were near the eye, they had a little less wind at times, but there were certainly areas in there that had gusts in the 80s, I'm sure of it. But look at Punta Gorda at 135 and Cape Coral at 140-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Just amazing numbers there. Here's some other numbers that you can see there. Naples had 112, Grove City 110, Tarpon Point had 109-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Charley versus Ian comparisons. So look at this. These are the similarities, all right? Landfall, 150-mile-per-hour winds, both of them. Landfall location, both of them, Cayo Costa. Central pressure, Charley had 941. Ian was just a touch stronger at 940. Very, very similar. Now look at the differences, and you can see Charley was trucking, man. This thing was moving at 20 to 25 miles per hour versus Ian was moving only between 7 and 9 miles per hour. So that not only means you're going to get heavier rainfall, right, because it's just over the same area for a longer amount of time, but it also means that those destructive winds have more time to do damage. And we saw that with Ian. Now, the other thing, Charley was relatively small. The wind radius for hurricane force winds was 10 miles. With Ian, it was 45 miles, 4.5 times wider with those hurricane force winds. And that's just 4.5 times more destruction almost, right? Certainly, and we're not even talking storm surge. Obviously, that creates more storm surge. You have more wind over a larger, what we call fetch area of water. High winds, same high wind, but more of it over a larger fetch makes more storm surge. So the storm surge was even worse from that. And then you can see the peak recorded gust with Charley was 124 miles per hour, while we had 140 with Ian. But still, just looking at the track and some of those similarities, it's just pretty wild. All right, let's take a look at the Hurricane Center's forecast track. So now, I know, and I'm not going to get too much into this, but Monday and Tuesday, I saw some of the networks talking about Lee County didn't do this, Lee County didn't do that. I'm not going to argue that either way, but what I'm going to show you is that the Hurricane Center forecast shifted quite a bit, 24 to 36 hours leading up to this thing. All right, and I know emergency managers, and I know they're looking at forecasts from the Hurricane Center for surge. Those numbers trigger those evacuations. Now, this is Monday morning at 8 o'clock, 55 hours before landfall. Landfall, again, was 3:05 p.m. on Wednesday, right? This was the forecast Monday morning. Hurricane Center's got it going up north of Citrus County, basically. Skirting Tampa. Tampa's still going to take a hit, but it's going up just a little bit to our north. By 8 o'clock that night, it's come a little bit further to the south. Not a lot. Now it's up towards Hernando County. Still, probably the center is up towards Citrus, but you're swiping Tampa a little bit more. Now, that's Monday night. Everybody's going to bed. You look down here in the blue, and now you've got a tropical storm, a storm surge warning, or tropical storm warning is what that blue is, for the Fort Myers area. But you got hurricane warnings from Sarasota, really from Inglewood, South Sarasota County, northward, right? That's Monday night. Everybody's going to bed. Tropical storm warnings for Fort Myers. All right, let's go to Tuesday morning, 5 a.m. People probably still in bed. Now look what's happened. Now we have hurricane warnings from Tampa all the way down to Marco Island just about. Now we've got a major hurricane forecast to come in. Okay, this is 5 a.m. Tuesday morning. The forecast is for this to make landfall over Pinellas County. The worst surge at that point is going to be Manatee County and up into the bay of Tampa Bay. Right? Sarasota is going to get hit hard too with that. That's 5 in the morning. From what I heard, Lee County was sometime shortly after this put out something, and they were starting evacuations at 9 a.m. Tuesday morning, so 4 hours from this. Let's go out to the 11 a.m. update. Now, look at this. It shifts south so that now landfall is Manatee, Sarasota County with the center, and now you're really starting to get more concerned that location and point southward, right? You go into 5 p.m. Tuesday, and look at that switch. Now it's in southern Sarasota County, if not all the way down to Fort Myers, and then look at this. That's 11 p.m. Tuesday. So we started Tuesday morning with it, Pinellas County. Tuesday night, it's over Fort Myers. And that's just the forecast. And the surge models that we use to determine how much storm surge you can see are based off where that storm we think it's going to go. And so they'll say, okay, you can see that little M right there, right before Fort Myers. We think it's going to be a major hurricane right there at this time with this amount of wind, right? And so looking at the topography, knowing the area, that's all calculated in the models, they come up with a storm surge number. All right, those numbers were constantly changing. Well, I'll show you how they were changing, but they weren't changing until later in the day on Tuesday. All right, because the track was changing. On top of all of this, here's 8 a.m. Wednesday, 7 hours before landfall, and you can see obviously it's coming in. And then you can see at 2 p.m. Wednesday, this is about an hour before it went on shore. So now let's talk surge and surge forecast. So what you're seeing here is I went back and I looked at the advisories from the Hurricane Center, Sunday at 11 p.m. I kind of jumped around. I went to Monday at 11 p.m. And then so what you're seeing down here is the advisory from the National Hurricane Center. These numbers here are the range in feet that they were calling for that Fort Myers area, generally Inglewood to Bonita Beach. All right, Bonita Springs, sorry. Right, so that's the area that I was looking for on the numbers. All right, so now the top number here is the number of hours prior to landfall. So if you look out here, Sunday night, you had 4 to 7 foot forecast storm surge for the Fort Myers area, right? At that time, the storm was south of Grand Cayman, well down in the Caribbean. Monday after, I think it was 5 o'clock Monday, you can see that there, it's 48 hours from landfall. They issued a storm surge warning for the Fort Myers area, still going 4 to 7. Tuesday morning, they're going 4 to 7. Now, it's right after this that the Lee County that I heard was going to start the evacuations at 9 o'clock. All right. By 11 a.m., the track's coming further south. The surge is coming up. Tuesday at 5 p.m., they're going 8 to 12. Still going 8 to 12. Tuesday at 11 o'clock. People are going to bed, right? Wednesday morning, 8 to 12 foot storm surge. But between 5 a.m. Wednesday morning, remember, look, this is 10 hours before landfall. 10 hours, guys. They're forecasting 8 to 12. By 8 a.m., it goes 12 to 16. By 11 a.m., it's 12 to 18. So let's put a little bit of this into perspective. If you're an emergency manager looking at where do you do this, that's a tough call, especially when it's down here and it's in the Caribbean, right? It's crossing Cuba in this area right in here, okay? But you got to look at those numbers. Now you're the Hurricane Center, right? You're trying to get the best forecast. You're trying to keep everybody prepared. The guy running the National Hurricane Center is Jamie Rome. He is the storm surge guru. He knows what this can do, right? He knows the threat that Fort Myers was facing. They're looking at a forecast that rapidly changed during the day on Tuesday. And as such, it's going to rapidly change these numbers, as you can see that are happening here. Now, that's just the track, all right? All through here, the forecast was about 130 to 140 mile per hour winds. Guess what happens right in here? It rapidly intensifies. We got eye wall replacement cycles, and now you've got 155 mile per hour Cat 4, you get 2 more miles per hour, and you got a Cat 5 hurricane. These numbers have to come up at that point. But this is 10 hours before landfall. Hopefully, it's already raining, right? Much less trying to get people out of there. It's just it's an unfortunate situation. But I look at it like the people, I live closer to the coast. I know I need to be prepared for anything. This was just such a situation where things ramped up and changed so quickly. I just feel bad all the way around. It's really hard to put blame on anybody in this case. And I certainly don't think anybody did anything, obviously out of malice, but I don't think anybody really did anything, that they weren't expected to do. I'll be honest with you. It's a tough situation. So that's that. Now, let's go back and talk about something called shedding. It's called rain shedding. rainfall shedding. So that's when the rain comes down and falls into the rivers, and then eventually the rivers all draw and go back out into the Gulf of Mexico. So I want to show you satellite imagery here. This is from the 28th. There it is, guys. That's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon as it's making landfall. See that? That's the satellite picture. Now, let's go out to the next day. I want you to look right in here, including Tampa Bay. It might be kind of tough to see, but you see how it's kind of a light brownish water there. We still got some blue here, you know. Certainly, you know, the viz is not good. Let's put it that way, right? Churned up Gulf of Mexico, but not terrible. Now, watch what happens 2 days later. Look at this. You see this? You see the brown in here? In fact, you'll actually notice even the rivers are swollen here. Look at the brown coming now out of Tampa Bay as well, too, but certainly it's down here. I want you to watch this area in Fort Myers. Sanibel's right here. It went in right in here, Punta Gorda area. Look what's happened. You see this? Look at this watercolor here. You see all that? They're literally plumes of water that's coming in from off of the land and plowing out. Now, this is storm surge. Storm surge comes up and goes back pretty quickly. If storm surge pushes water up into a low-lying area that can't drain, that water will sit there, and that is some situations down there. But when you look at the barrier islands there that are just kind of flat in so many ways, that's storm surge water that went up and then came right back. That went out initially, and that was out on the 29th. This is water that's draining from all of the rivers, and you can see the color differences, including, look how dark it gets out here past Egmont, right, out of Tampa Bay. This is October 2nd. Look at it spreading out here, and here, and here, and even down south a little bit as well. And then look at it October 3rd. Meanwhile, we've got northwest to north winds that went a little northeast at times, so that's helping to push it offshore as well. And you can see it all spreading out. Look at October 4th, guys. Look how dark all that is. That is runoff. It's rainfall shedding. That, unfortunately, is going to have a lot of nutrients in it, along with just a lot of just crap. I mean, the water quality, terrible. It goes over sewage systems, right? Anything in the house that, you know, chemicals, gasoline, all those boats, those cars wrecked, oil, you know, all that stuff gets in the water and then drains back out. So this is going to be quite an ordeal for the environment along the southwest coast. My concern, too, is red tide naturally forms out here. And there's got to be a high level of nutrient in here. So we're going to have to really keep a close eye and see if all of this runoff here, this rainfall shedding, if it's going to put, you know, if that's going to cause, what nutrients do to red tide is they feed an organism. The organism, red tide then feeds on another organism. So you put nutrients out there in the water, like fertilizer and stuff like that. All that runoff basically feeds these organisms, and then it just feeds red tide. So we have not had red tide along the coast lately. It's been very, very quiet. So hopefully it stays that way. But that is certainly something that we're going to have to watch out for. Now, let's talk about the rivers. Some of them are still flooding. Look where the track went, the blue line, and look where our heaviest rain went. It was along and to the north of that track, right? Now, look, there are spots in Pinellas and Hillsborough that saw, you know, 9/10 of an inch to about 1.5 inches in many areas here. But then it really ramped up to about 10 to 20 inches. And then you can do the same thing, 5 to 6 here, 2 to 3, 1 to 2, right? But all of these rivers along that track took in all that water, and all that water is now coming out. The green that you see there, by the way, are the flooding warnings for the rivers that are still high. And then you can see the rivers here. I mean, this white that you see here is more water coming out, right? So that's going to continue. This shedding is going to continue for at least another week or so. Okay, I know this is getting long. Let me get you off here. I got the 5 o'clock show. I'm going to miss here. Potential tropical cyclone 13, not organized enough to be a tropical storm. It's right down here, but it's causing some trouble right along the coast of South America. So they went ahead and gave it a PTC so they can give it a track, and so they can issue forecasts and watches and warnings and stuff like that for those that would like it in that area. Hugging the coast, Aruba getting all kinds of rain out of this, right? There's the forecast track, takes it off towards the west, northwest, and then eventually into Nicaragua and Honduras. That would be Sunday, okay? But it does get a name. At least that's what the forecast is calling for. Julia is the next name on the list. And then the latest forecast does have it going to Cat 1 before landfall and then falling apart. Some of the models keep a little bit of moisture in the Bay of Campeche here down in the southern Gulf of Mexico. But we got these big areas of high pressure coming down from the north that should protect us. So that should not be an issue for us. Okay, guys, long video for today, but I hope it helped you out a little bit understanding what happened. Again, we hope everybody's doing well. We'll all work together and get through this. Florida's strong, right? You've seen all that kind of stuff, but it's true. And, you know, people that I talk to in Tampa know we dodged a bullet. And I've been rather pleased that people don't think, well, I'm just going to stay the next time, because they always say it's going to hit Tampa, never hits Tampa. Well, people took it. I think most of the people I talked to took it seriously to this time around. And then after seeing what happened in Fort Myers, I think a lot of people will take it seriously the next time that we have to deal with something like this. So thanks for watching, guys. We appreciate it. I hope you're doing well out there.